Hello and welcome to episode 128 of the How to Survive podcast. And this week, as it's episode 128, we're covering a film in which the people want to eat you.
Not bad.
Joining me as ever is Joe.
Sadly, for this film.
Yes, this week's film is Cannibal Holocaust.
I did put in for the week off, but they wouldn't give me the annual leave.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad you're here to talk about it with me. It's the 1980 Ruggero Deodato film.
Cannibal Holocaust.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel dirty for having to talk about it. I feel dirty for having watched it.
Having to talk about it. State-mandated episode of How to Survive podcast.
Yeah.
That is Cannibal Holocaust. If you haven't seen Cannibal Holocaust, consider yourself lucky. But if for some reason this introduction has made you want to see it, perhaps for the masochists out there, then be warned, because we will be spoiling everything about the film that it hasn't spoiled itself. So we are going to be chock full of spoilers. There's plenty to sink our teeth into, isn't there, Joe?
Yeah, that's a good one.
A lot to digest.
We'll take a bite out of this film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same as my one, wasn't it?
It's slightly different.
Slightly different. Well, Cannibal Holocaust.
Something to chew over.
Yeah. Plenty after this.
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting. Oh, good Lord. It's unbelievable. It's horrible. I can't understand the reason for such cruelty. It must have something to do with some obscure sexual rite, or with the almost profound respect these primitives have for virginity.
In 1979, an American documentary crew disappears in the Amazon while filming a documentary about indigenous cannibal tribes. Professor Harold Monroe agrees to venture into the Amazon in an attempt to locate them, assisted by the military, who take a hostage from the Yakumo tribe in order to negotiate, allowing them access to the Yakumo's village.
So, when you say takes the army,
Yeah.
takes one man and some guy.
The army attack the tribe and take a
Right.
hostage,
That's
and then
true.
he and two other people go to the village. Upon arrival, Monroe and his cohorts are treated with suspicion, and it becomes apparent that the documentary crew caused great unrest among the tribe. Venturing deeper into the jungle, the group come across two warring cannibal tribes, the Yanomamo and the Shamatari. After saving a group of Yanomamo, who knows, who cares?
Yeah.
From an ambush, the group is allowed to enter their village too, where once again they are treated with suspicion. In an attempt to curry favour with the tribe, Monroe bathes naked in the river and is led by a group of Yanomamo women. I'm going to say it differently every time.
One of them had to be right.
Yanomamo women to a shrine where he discovers, to his horror, the desecrated remains of the documentary crew. Learning the crew's footage still survives, he trades a tape recorder with the tribal chief and returns to New York, whereupon he is invited by the Pan American Broadcasting System to host a documentary made from the recovered film.
Yeah. It's he's all up for it at the beginning, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because he's a bit of a celebrity.
Well, he's an anthropologist, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. The network show him the group's previous film called The Last Road to Hell, which documents executions in war-torn nations, although the networks insist this was staged for dramatic effect. Monroe insists on viewing the recovered footage, and the following portion of the film takes the form of the found footage, thereby inventing the found footage genre, some people consider.
Yeah, first one. Should have been the last, really, shouldn't it?
If this was what...
Yeah. You should never have done it again.
Yeah. Upon arrival in the Amazon, the documentary crew, which consists of Alan, the director, his girlfriend Faye, and 2 cameramen, Jack and Mark, trek through the jungle over the course of several days. Footage shows them mutilating and eating animals, including a sea turtle, and amputating their guide's leg with a machete following a snake bite. The guide dies shortly afterwards. Locating the Yakumo tribe, the group shoots one of them in the leg to make it easier to track them back to their village. Upon arrival, they herd the Yakumo into a tent and set it on fire in order to stage a massacre for their film.
So did any of them actually die?
I think it's implied that they probably did, yeah.
Great stuff.
At this point, Monroe makes clear his concerns with the footage, criticising the crew's treatment of the indigenous tribes and the staged scenes they create, but his concerns are ignored. Later, he finishes viewing the rest of the footage and makes it clear he wants no part in the broadcast to the station executives. He shows them the remaining footage in order to demonstrate why. The last section of the crew's footage shows them gang raping a Yanomamo girl who is later found impaled on a wooden pole. It is not clear if this is another staged scene or the result of the tribe's retribution for her loss of virginity. Shortly thereafter, they are attacked by the Yanomamo in revenge. Jack is hit by a spear and Alan shoots him so they can document how the tribe mutilate his remains. They stay behind to film it and are then chased themselves. This time, Faye is captured. Rather than rescue her, Mark continues filming as she is gang raped, beaten to death, and beheaded. The Yanomamo then pursues and kills the remaining 2 crew members, and the footage ends on Alan's bloody face. Disturbed by what they've seen, the executives order the footage to be destroyed. And that is Cannibal Holocaust. What a treat. What a treat of a film.
God. I'd forgotten some of it because I watched it last week.
Yeah. Well, here's a bit of context on the film for you.
Thanks.
And for anyone listening who may not know it. Ruggero Deodato is a hack horror sort of action director.
He's not, is he?
Yeah.
Wait, the guy who made this? The guy who made Cannibal Holocaust?
He had made a cannibal film before.
Oh. But that wasn't enough.
Cannibal Holocaust features real life, on camera killing and mutilation of animals.
Yep.
It's not special effects. Cannibal Holocaust was banned from distribution for many years, and Deodato was for a time accused of killing real people on camera and creating a snuff film, which wasn't true. One of the points was whether or not the woman on the spear, woman on the pike or whatever,
was really
impaled on it, and they got an actress to recreate
the shot
in court, basically.
Oh, God.
It was included, unsurprisingly, as a video nasty in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said earlier, in some people's opinion, it created the found footage genre. Now, Joe, did you enjoy Cannibal Holocaust?
No. Obviously not. It was absolutely awful. We've done films on this podcast before where I've been apprehensive about watching them.
Right.
Either because I think they're going to be shit in the case of something like The Boy.
Yeah.
Or because I think I'm going to be scared or upset by what I see in something like It Comes at Night or The Witch, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't want
in a way that a horror movie should make you nervous.
But I'd read basically the notes you just read out about how it's, contains the real killing of animals and multiple gang rapes and stuff. And I didn't want to watch it.
No.
I don't know why I did. We didn't have to do this.
Well, it was mandated by the state, Joe. I think you're forgetting that strongly worded letter.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a legacy in horror as being, the most upsetting film ever made.
Right.
And it is. It's genuinely horrible from start to finish. It's racist, sexist, but not just racist and sexist. It just is repugnant to indigenous people, and it's absolutely barbaric towards women. But that's not saying anything the film doesn't tell you itself.
Yeah, and it's. I'd like to add a point to your list of criticisms. There, it's pointless.
Yeah,
it doesn't. I don't. I mean, we're going to get into this in a bit, but I don't feel that it has any worth. Like it has nothing to say.
Yeah.
I think it thinks it does. I think Ruggero Deodato thinks that the film has a point.
Yeah.
But I would argue, and I'm going to argue, that it does not.
Okay, fair enough. Let's not forget as well that the treatment of animals is
It's reprehensible.
No, it's horrific. It's like that was the most upsetting thing because the rest of it's simulated. It's
Also, the version we watched is censored as well to a large extent. From what I understand, the version that you can get in the UK, and it's quite difficult to get hold of for obvious reasons.
I had to sign up for
Mubi,
Muji,
yeah,
whatever. Mubi,
I think, yeah,
whatever. Some Amazon app.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's worth it. Yeah. From what I understand, the only version that you can get here is one that the BBFC has approved, which doesn't have any like actual on-screen, like the act of murder of animals.
Because it cuts away, doesn't it? Yeah.
But you see the dismemberment. I mean, the famous one is when the documentary crew dismember a sea turtle and like prise its shell off and all sorts of things. And it's
and they're chopping heads off monkeys and disembowelling them. It's just I mean, if it's meant to be a thing about freedom of speech, right? That could be a defense of it. It's not freedom of anything to inflict pain on things or kill them. That's the opposite of freedom.
Yeah.
So you're kind of destroying your own ends, aren't you?
It's like trying to attack the last taboos and like take down political correctness, but it's like I don't know of anyone who really, I mean, apart from maybe like fox hunters, but even then there's an element of sport to that. I can't imagine that you'd find a great number of people who would back the senseless killing of animals on camera for no reason.
No, it's insane. That's the most upsetting thing about it. I mean, I'm deeply upset as well by the sexual violence. But the defense of that is at least it's simulated. This is not. This is murder.
Yeah. Like, the reason they can get away with it, by the way, is because they filmed it in the middle of a jungle.
Right.
There were
no authority.
There's no oversight, basically. Yeah. Like either within the film's production or from an authority. There were like reports of crew members refusing to carry on filming, especially during the tougher scenes.
If you heard that from the set of The Revenant, you'd be like, oh, because Alejandro Ebenetu is working them too hard.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a tough scene to film. Mm-hmm. This is a tough scene to film because they're murdering people.
Yeah.
Murdering things,
Yeah.
I consider animals people. Anyway, I mean, if you were to make a defense of it and say there's one good thing about it, all right, you might say the special effects are quite good. But that's because they're not actually special effects. They're footage. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like the animals, like you said, the animals are actually killed. But then the woman who's impaled on the pole, do you think that's a good special effect?
I mean, not especially. Like it's not. There's nothing in this film that is, makes a spectacle of itself.
No. Would you enter any of it into the Museum of Film?
Absolutely not. No. I think it's there's no redeeming qualities to the film at all. Like there are extreme horror films or like films that have extreme content, which are, the overall package is a good film or an interesting film or, contributes in some way to the history of cinema. You could say that this contributes to the history of cinema in the sense that it's like boundary pushing and, accidentally, I would argue, stumbled on the found footage genre.
Right, yeah.
Although I would have something to say about that.
Here's a question, right? When does the found footage really start?
Well, the found footage starts when he starts looking over the footage. But here's the problem with that.
Is he going to say that the soundtrack, right?
Well, there is that.
Right.
In that, like, I guess at the start he started cutting it together. And so, because you get a little bit of voiceover and stuff sometimes, don't you? And it's a bit strange. So it's almost like you're watching an assembly cut.
It's kind of him on the journey to get the the footage back, that's what you're seeing. But then you get the weird music over that, like
it's like psychedelic soundtrack. Yeah.
But then when they're showing the footage that they found,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, a lot of the audio just drops out, so I put a soundtrack on it,"
Yeah.
which is a way of explaining how the film got a non-diegetic soundtrack.
Yeah.
But it's the exact same that was in the earlier part of the film,
Right.
which was meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? It was meant to be
Well,
unedited.
I think it's I mean, whether the title sequence is canon or whether it's
This isn't even the title sequence. This is like when they're in the jungle, when he's, him and the army guy are trying to. It's the same soundtrack.
Yeah, I know it's the same music. Yeah. My problem with the found footage stuff is that it at no point feels like anyone else apart from Ruggiero Deodato's behind the camera. Like when you watch Blair Witch, you feel like those actors are filming because that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
In this, it feels like you're watching an extension of the scenes that you've been watching for the rest of the film.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no change.
No, exactly.
Shot on the same camera, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, there still feels like there's an element of mediation to what you're watching that you don't get in something like Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Do you think the film is a success on its own terms? By which I mean, is it an effective extreme horror movie? Is it an effective criticism of depictions of extreme violence in news media?
Here's my response to that, and I think that it's too successful, right? And let me explain why. First of all, it's intended to shock people, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that. It's a great fake horror film, and it succeeded in that. It's shocked a lot of people, but it went too far. It got too successful, as the director ended up being arrested for obscenity.
Right.
It aimed to be authentic. It does look authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And it succeeded, but it did that too well, and the director ended up on trial for murder. And it aimed to be a story where a manipulative filmmaker gets punished for going too far, and it succeeded because the director ended up arrested for obscenity and on trial for murder, and marginalised by every facet of the filmmaking community for making the film in the first place.
Yeah, I think you are right in the sense that it's
like he achieved what he was looking for. It's a case of be careful what you wish for, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, do you think he still was setting out to make a piece of entertainment? Like, how much of a political statement do you think this film is?
I think it's trying to be. It's not all a political statement, is it?
Do you think, to some extent, it's after timing?
Like he was on trial and saying, "Oh, what I was trying to say."
Yeah,
here.
exactly. What I was trying to say was criticise news media and all that sort of thing.
Possibly, but I think that intention is there. I think that is because like the character. Forgive me for forgetting his name, but the main narrator, what's his name?
Monroe.
So he's the guy who finds the footage and stuff, and he's the one who says, "No, we can't air this." He's kind of the moral voice.
Sure.
Our cipher in the movie.
Yeah.
And the executive is saying, "No, we need to air it because that's what people want. They want violence and stuff." That message is there. It's not like he's reaching to say that's there, but whether it's appropriate is another question.
Well, I think. Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, as I said before, the found footage stuff rings hollow to me because it never feels like anyone else is behind the camera.
Right.
And the leering camera that the found footage section takes on, in the sense that it's, watching the dismemberment of people and rape of people, that is obviously in there ostensibly to critique that kind of footage, right? But the problem with that is that, to my knowledge, that sort of footage generally doesn't get aired or didn't get aired on news media in the 1980s, still doesn't now, right? And it's very difficult, and I struggle to see the value in critiquing something by also doing exactly the thing that you're doing exactly the same thing.
We've said it before about like parody films. The parody doesn't work if you're making the exact same film.
Yeah, but I mean, some of them try to do that and sort of draw attention to the similarities.
Right.
This is just an extreme a depiction of extreme sexual violence.
Yeah,
like there is no level of parody or pastiche to it it's just showing you the things that it's saying. Isn't it terrible that footage of these things gets shown to people?
But it doesn't.
Like, yeah, but like when have you seen anything? Like, there's a reason this film is banned, and like the vast majority of all other films aren't banned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Panorama, which is basically what they're making, right? It's like
right,
it's like
or like Planet Earth or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's never shown gang rape.
no, exactly.
Or even alluded to it, I don't imagine.
I can't imagine, no. I think it fails as well because all of the characters, aside from perhaps Monroe, are universally unlikable.
He's not that likable.
Well, but that's what I mean is that he qualifies only by the sense that he's the
central character.
Yeah, and the moral voice, as you said. But like, I suppose the film has the idea that you're supposed to enjoy the characters and then be confronted by their actions and understand their downfall.
But there's also a sense of like, maybe you're meant to be celebrating. Like when you watch a horror movie, sometimes the dickhead gets it first, and you're like,
sure,
great.
But you're supposed to be reveling in their. Well, but like that might be true after you see their like horrible actions, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that I think the film is trying to sort of like trick you by showing them sort of larking about with one another and enjoying each other's company and walking around naked and all those sorts of things. It's an attempt to endear you to those characters, and then you're supposed to be shocked when they go on to do these horrible things.
Yeah, but they're horrible to start with.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes.
I mean,
I would say
they take it up a level for sure. But
yeah, but I think, that's a failure of the film. Like, if its point is to try and make you care for these characters and then be confronted by the horrific things they've done, it fails in that respect because you never are endeared to the characters, and when they do awful things, it's just people you don't like. You're just watching people you don't like commit heinous acts.
Yeah,
with no like wider allegorical message, really.
I mean, to take my point earlier, is it a case that they're meant to be unlikable from the start? And I mean, if it was like Black Mirror or something, right? Someone does something bad in Black Mirror, and you'd be like, "Oh, I hope they get their just desserts."
Yeah.
But then they get their just desserts, and it's like their brain gets deleted, or something.
Right? Yeah.
And you're like, oh, "I wish I hadn't thought of that." Now.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it? But that's not that. I mean, this isn't Black Mirror.
But I think what it might be trying to do is, like say to you, well, you like watching horror movies then, do you? Like you watching documentaries, you like watching horror movies. Well, here's a horror movie for you. It's like, it's trying to like challenge you, right? But you don't feel challenged for enjoying the horrific imagery if you never enjoyed it in the first place and it was always horrible.
Yeah.
Like, and finally, it's a failure, I think, because it's not scary. It's not frightening at all.
No.
There's no tension, right? Like, to draw a sort of broad comparison to another film, which is like, I would say, in the extreme horror frame, like something like Hostel has an element of tension to it in the sense that characters can escape and characters
and you want them to get away.
Right. And so the peril is that they might not, and they might die. In this, there is no tension
because you know they die.
Yeah, and you don't want them to survive anyway.
Yeah,
there's basically no protagonist.
No,
and
Monroe's meant to be the protagonist.
Yeah, but like his goal is basically find the footage, which he does, and then stop them from showing the footage, which he does.
Yeah.
But you're sort of punished for following his story.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, another weird comparison to make. And yours wasn't that weird. Mine is. It was Up, right? The movie Up. Right?
Yeah.
So the character in that...
I think this must be a first, right?
Yeah, it probably is. The main guy in that, I don't remember his name. I haven't seen it sometime.
Yeah.
The old guy. He kind of idolizes this explorer. And then he meets him and realizes that he's a complete dickhead. If they had that element in it, like... Everyone thinks this documentary crew were like totally cool and really nice. And like they did it, they pushed the boundaries.
Yeah, they went out to these war-torn countries
And they helped people.
exposed
Yeah. What
they
was
exposed like militaries
Yeah, exactly.
executing people, and then it turns out that they faked it all and they're just cunts.
Yeah, but that's not all you get. Is the first introduction is basically the TV execs going, "Oh no, they faked everything."
Yeah,
So from that point on, you're like, "Well, they're cunts.
yeah,
Like they're shitheads, and I don't
Yeah.
care."
yeah,
But if this had been a revelation to them as well, and they're like, we believed a lie, and now
Right.
that lie is
Yeah.
being thrown.
They
in our
always
face.
just gave us the edited documentaries. We've
Right.
never seen the rushes before, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
But that's not there.
no,
Everyone's
And also
even the
that-
TV execs. That makes them unlikable as well.
yeah, yeah, because they're complicit.
Yeah.
But-
Who's the joke meant to be on?
Well, so that leads us on to sort of the apparent political message of the film, right?
Mm.
Which is that media executives will, happily show acts of extreme violence because it will get lots of viewers.
Mm.
And they'll happily show stereotypes of indigenous peoples and, inaccurate portrayals of their culture and all that sort of thing because they know it gets viewers,
Mm.
right? The problem with that in this film is that they don't do that, do they? They stop it from going out.
Yeah.
They delete it, they burn the footage.
Yep.
So
It's pointless.
if the end of the film was that even in spite of all of this stuff, the TV executives are still licking their lips going, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is going to make great TV. We're going to get so many viewing figures." And Monroe's horrified.
And he goes outside and says, "Who are the real cannibals?"
Yeah,
Which he does anyway.
right. I want to go back to that. Who are the real cannibals? Okay.
The people who eat people.
Well, that's the final line of the film, right?
Yeah.
Who are the real cannibals?
Yeah.
And if it's, last lines in films have like a pregnancy of meaning by their location in the film, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
By their context. And if who are the real cannibals is the film's message, then it's shallow and devoid of any actual meaning, I would argue, right? Like we said, it would be satirizing network executives if like this horrific footage left them licking their lips at how brilliant it's going to be, right? The film never actually examines its own portrayal of like tribal cultures.
Yeah.
Even though I suspect that the film intends to blame that on like the media company in the film and the documentary crew. So like even in the first half of the film, the portrayal of those tribal cultures is incredibly insensitive, broad. They're cannibals.
Right.
They're like
yeah.
all this sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
Primitive, like inhuman, warring tribes of cannibals, right?
Yeah, and they do weird like incantations and stuff, which don't make any sense anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So that half of the film is the film's depiction of these cultures, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like incredibly insensitive, racist, like etc. Right. Now the film's called Cannibal Holocaust, right? The use of the word Holocaust obviously evokes like a sort of wartime concentration camp thing, and it evokes, when you think of like documentary footage, it evokes footage of concentration camps. Like I'm sure you've seen footage of Holocaust victims being led into
liberated,
camps or being liberated or
but
whatever.
basically, you've seen the effect. You've seen what happens in a concentration camp thanks to footage.
Yeah, right. And if the story was that they like cold-heartedly document cannibalistic murder, like without intervening or trying to stop it or anything like that, and then continue to do so even as their group gets attacked, right? That would be one thing, because it would be like, look how far these documentarians have gone to document this horrific sensationalist footage.
Yeah, past their own morals.
Right, and and like even to the extent that they're allowing their own friends to die.
Yeah, right.
But to actually actively involve the documentary crew in the violence undercuts that completely, because they're seen to be worse than the tribal cultures.
Right.
Right. And the comparison is no longer valid. Right. So, I mean, there's no frame, I think, where this political message that it's supposedly giving makes any sense.
I think you're right, because I mean you've pretty much expunged any counter argument already.
Well, I think it leads into a broader thing, I think, about exploitation horror,
Right.
and whether or not it's ever an appropriate vehicle for a political message.
Right.
Because as ever in these situations, as is the case in Cannibal Holocaust, it's borderline impossible to form any sort of opinion on the political message because it's hidden behind so many layers of abject nastiness and disgusting content.
It's a similar complaint we had when we did The Hills Have Eyes back in episode 8, I think.
Sure.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Like Wes Craven intended The Hills Have Eyes, the original one, to be a satire on the conceited depravity of the American nuclear family, right?
Okay.
Basically saying that this family of cannibals and mutants who live in the hills are no worse than the suburban family who come across them, because they resort to the same level of murder and the same desperate things, right?
Sure.
Problem is, that movie used rape as a key plot point, and that was deeply inappropriate, and it didn't really. It brought everything down to a level where the movie became like useless.
Yeah,
like that message was gone completely.
Yeah,
and in the same way, a satire on the immorality of journalists manipulating stories has no reason to include gang rape, the torture and murder of live animals, or the racist exploitation of humans. Really, like they were poverty-stricken humans being used in this movie as actors.
Right, that's
and
something
being
that we
treated
haven't,
like cattle.
Yeah, that's something that we haven't covered yet, is that all the indigenous tribes are from like Colombian jungles, and they are actual real-life indigenous tribes people.
Exactly.
And they were like corralled into being part of this film, which, I mean, like, imagine if like a film got a load of Jewish actors together and portrayed all of the Jewish people as like money, whatever Jewish stereotypes. The same with like black people.
But it's worse than that as well. It's because there's scenes of like manhandling and like he's like checking his teeth and stuff. It's like they treat them like animals. This is meant to be normal. This is like you said at the beginning of the film, where this is meant to be the depiction of how these tribes people are supposed to be seen by the anthropologist as well. The guy who's meant to be the understanding one.
The anthropologist is supposed to be the sort of arbiter, isn't he?
But he's like manhandling them as well.
Yeah. And he nearly guns a load of them down as well.
It's a disgrace.
Let's not forget.
Fucking disgrace. Ultimately, the film undermines its own message with its content.
Yeah.
In a very unintentionally meta-cinematic way. The director has ultimately ended up doing what he was attempting to portray as wrong.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. And while doing that, he's managed to like completely hide his intended political message.
Yeah, exactly.
Like who is going to watch this really, and like what is the Venn diagram of people who are going to be able to stomach the content and not be offended by it, and like where's the overlap with those people and people who will like benefit from the political messaging? Like it must be astronomically small.
Yeah. Well, clearly. Well, could you stomach it? Do you think you said you stomached it?
Well,
I sat through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I watched it, so I did stomach it.
You did stomach it, yeah. And you watched it twice as well, didn't you?
Yeah. That's right. It's the second time in slow motion.
Yeah. Fast forward to the best bits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the movies, like you said, what would you say the key messages? The intended
message, I think, is that media companies will sink to any depth of depravity in order to get a story.
Right. Now, there's a movie that I've seen recently, and it was maybe my favourite film of 2015, 2014, whenever it came out, and that is Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
And that is a movie which is astonishingly good. Like a beautifully shot film, a compelling portrayal of someone who is basically a psychopath.
Yeah.
And
it's very like you as well.
In what way?
In the way that the character sort of every other scene goes, I'm reading this book by an economist, and he says that everyone should quit their job at 30 and retire.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. I've been reading this book on how to influence people in the workplace. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to introduce me as Joe Sherville, creator and director of How to Survive Media.
I didn't need to read a book to know that.
Yeah.
The point is, the movie Nightcrawler, he plays this is Jake Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
He plays a guy, Lou Bloom is his
Yeah.
character, and he's down on his luck, and he gets a job basically as a, what do they call him?
Well, he
Nightcrawler,
seeks out a
basically.
job.
Yeah.
He basically creates his own work. He becomes a freelance.
Videographer.
Yeah,
But his job is to basically get on a police radio, and when he hears about an accident,
yeah,
he gets there before the emergency services in order to film the wreckage.
yeah,
And it's fucking horrible, right?
Mhm.
It's just disgusting behavior.
yeah. If
And
it bleeds, it leads.
That's kind of the motto of the film, right?
Yeah.
And he gets to deeper and deeper levels, and it gets to the point where he is manipulating things so that accidents happen, so that he
Yeah.
can film them, right?
Right.
And that's the question: is has he gone too far at that point?
And the
The
answer is yes.
And that film as well has an uncomfortable sexual encounter. It's off camera.
Yeah.
Sexual coercion is involved, and it's incredibly uncomfortable,
Mhm.
right? And it completely changes your view of the character, completely, right?
Yeah.
You've already got low estimations, and you're like, he's now unredeemable.
Yeah.
But you don't see that. You don't have to see a fucking
No.
gang rape to know
No.
that someone's bad, right?
Yeah.
That
And the film effortlessly makes the political statement that it's trying to make.
exactly, yeah. And you
Yeah.
go away thinking, I understand what that meant,
Yeah.
and I agree. Do you know what?
Yeah.
I do agree.
Yeah.
And it's things like you said before. It's things that you're likely to see. It's things like car crashes and robberies and things that you are likely to see on the news.
Yeah.
You don't normally see a hut full of indigenous people being burned down
Yeah.
whilst someone else is being beheaded in the background.
Yeah.
You don't see that on the news.
No.
It's insane.
Exactly. Oh dear. Well, it reminded me of another film, which is more down the extreme horror route.
Yeah.
I watched it with you, I believe, many years ago,
Was it Up?
and that is Paddington. No. I'm sure some people listening to this will have seen this. It's a Serbian film.
Did we watch it together?
We did, yeah, in your parents' conservatory.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah, Christmas Day.
Yeah. A Serbian film is a film which, according to its director, Serdan Spasijevic, tackles the fascism of political correctness
Right.
and,
That's-
critiques the Serbian film industry's willingness to accept foreign investment to make sanitized films. Right. So,
Right.
according to Spasijevic, the quality of the film is not their concern, only the bureaucratic upholding of the rule book on political correctness. Right. And it's called a Serbian film because Serbians have become synonyms for chaos and lunacy. The title is a cynical reference to that image, which I think he's basically saying is the film is playing up to Western European images of Serbia.
Serbians. So if you
and
made
Serbians.
it, on that basis, if you made a British film, it would be someone who votes against their own best interests.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And wearing a monocle and drinking tea.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And his suggestion is that the Serbian film industry is all too willing to do that in exchange for lucrative
Investment.
Yeah. Now, that could well make for a potent and interesting thematic exploration of cultural issues in the Serbian cultural sphere. But I think you'll agree with me, it's borderline impossible to understand or comprehend any of that as it's told through the vehicle of a depraved, unwatchable mess of a film in which a man repeatedly shouts the phrase newborn porn. Don't know why, but it drew a comparison in my mind to Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah. What's the climactic moment of the film? Very cool.
Should we talk about it? It's
I don't mind spoiling it.
all right. Well,
that's what you're concerned about.
he's. I believe he is drugged and then forced at gunpoint to rape his son to death.
Something like that. Probably a fair comparison for Cannibal Holocaust, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just because you can make that, if he's doing it about political correctness,
fascism of the fascism of political
If
correctness.
anyone uses the phrase "the fascism of political correctness," political correctness is about being inclusive,
Yeah.
right? And saying
Yeah.
we should
Right.
alter our language in a way that makes people not feel marginalised.
Right. What would you say political correctness as its basic tenet is? Like, what is the basic idea of political correctness? Why does political correctness exist?
So people don't get offended,
Right.
and
Yeah.
don't feel
Okay.
excluded from
Yeah.
society, right?
Yeah. So if you're anti-political correctness, you're actively looking to offend people.
And that's the only logical thing from
Yeah.
this film, right?
Yeah.
Fucking ridiculous.
So it's that time of the show, as ever,
Mm.
Joe, and we're going to talk about how to survive. Now, everyone in danger is eminently unsavable because their attitude is against self-preservation in the pursuit of documenting atrocities for the sake of the film's leering attitude. That's How to Survive for this week. That's the How to Survive section.
Yeah, I just put
A prepared statement.
don't be a cunt. It's,
yeah, fine.
yeah. Problem is, How to Survive the film. They're already dead at the beginning, and everyone else survives. So
Yep.
ridiculous.
Good.
So instead of How to Survive,
Yeah.
because it doesn't warrant it, let's play my quiz.
Is this the first time we've there are films that we haven't done How to Survive chat on because it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
This is the first film that we have deemed unworthy of How to Survive. Yeah.
Because we're on such a high cultural benchmark
Yeah.
that
It's because we're such SJW liberal metropolitan elite cucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Snowflakes. The thing is, I don't want to lower my content to that level.
Yeah. I don't want to sit for like 45 minutes trying to think of ways the characters in this film could have survived.
I'm glad they didn't survive. But then I don't know. It's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
I just don't. I wish I hadn't seen it. I wish we did. Well, whose idea was this?
I think actually, in fairness, we have had it suggested a
to
few
us
times by listeners. Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah.
HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com. Keep them coming in.
So, Chris, you think you know your Cannibal Holocaust movies, do you?
Yeah. Intimately.
Good.
Yeah.
Because we're going to play, instead of How to Survive, we're going to play my True or False Cannibal Movies quiz.
Great.
All right, so I'm just going to read out the name of a film.
Okay.
And you tell me real or fake, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll start with an easy one.
Yeah.
Cannibal Holocaust.
It's real.
Okay. Holocaust Cannibal.
Real.
Also real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sent me an IMDb screen grab of it. Nazi cannibals, is it?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, I guess so. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
All right. You're not informed.
No. But the thing is, it's it wasn't an IMDb entry. It was an Amazon entry.
Oh, right.
It's because I was searching the movie to watch Cannibal Holocaust. I don't know if it's a clever bit of SEO.
Yeah. Clearly.
Okay. Next one. So you're 2 for 2.
Mm-hmm.
Slave of the Cannibal God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real.
Real.
Yeah. Help! I'm a cannibal.
I'm going to say real.
Fake.
Oh, no. I thought you were going for the 100% real gag.
No, afraid not. Papaya, love goddess of the cannibals.
Real.
Real. Papaya 2, holy cannibal priestess.
Real?
Fake. It's a fake one.
That's disappointing.
I should say.
I wanted to know what happened to Papaya after the first installment.
I should warn that the ones that I say are fake to the best of my knowledge.
Right. Okay.
They weren't in the list I had, but they may exist.
By reading out their titles, are you also claiming exclusive copyright on the name?
Yeah.
Just in case you want to develop those ideas.
Yes. We're going to eat you.
Real.
Is real. Yeah. Cannibal tattoo.
Real?
It's fake.
I just want them all to be real. I think that's my problem.
Cannibal taboo.
Real?
Is real. Yeah.
Nice.
Cannibal defiance.
Real.
I can't remember. I've marked it. I've marked it as fake, but that sounds real.
Yeah, it sounds like I
think
that
mundane.
It's real to me.
Yeah. Last one.
Yeah.
You look delicious.
I hope that's real.
It's not real.
Oh, that's a shame. That is the one that I'd most like to see.
You look delicious.
Yeah.
I think I quite like to watch Papaya. That would be good. Papaya, love goddess of the cannibals.
Maybe on an upcoming episode.
Yeah. Christmas special.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for listening to episode 128 of the How to Survive podcast. That was How to Survive Cannibal Holocaust. Next week, we're doing another cannibal film, just because we've got the taste for it. Got the bit between our teeth, etc. And next week, we're covering a more recent cannibal film, and that is Raw. R-A-W. It's a French cannibal horror movie, and it is excellent.
It's amazing. Mark Kermode, for what it's worth, said it was his best film of last year.
Yeah. It's the one directed by Julia Ducournau.
Mm-hmm. Not the other French cannibal film from last year, directed by someone else.
Exactly, yeah. and it is very, very much worth a watch.
Yeah, it's available
Especially-
on Amazon to buy only, but it's the same price as renting. So
Yeah,
you can
and
actually
it
go back and
is,
watch it
and it's excellent.
week after
So
week. Yeah,
yeah.
great. Do
It's
get in touch.
It's worth whatever you pay for it.
Yes. Do get in touch with your thoughts on how you'd survive in Raw, or if you have any, maybe you disagree with us on our appraisal of Cannibal Holocaust. Maybe you
Yeah.
thought it was progressive or something.
Yeah.
Email us, howtosurviveshow@gmail.com,
Mm-hmm.
or get in touch with us on Twitter
Mhm.
at HowToSurvivePod,
Sure.
or on Facebook, facebook.com/HowToSurvive Pod.
Yeah. Facebook.com/HowToSurvivePod. So thank you very much.
And if you've enjoyed what you've tasted today,
Yeah.
leave us a 5-star review on our podcast apps you use.
Yeah. Whichever one of them you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5
iTunes or whatever.
5 stars. We had a good review the other day. 5 stars it was.
That's
So
good.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep them coming.
So thank you very much for listening. Next week, Raw. And in the meantime, just ask yourself, who are the real podcasters? It's us. We're the
We're the real
ones.
ones.
Yeah. Yep.